Stop obsessing to start appreciating. This is the story for this one. Hello, welcome back to Seldomly Often. I'm Daniel, today we're talking fragrances, and this is a practical review of Amouage Jubilation XXV. These reviews are for fragrances that I have a lot of experience with, multiple wears in many situations, and are meant to give you a general idea of what it feels to wear the fragrance. As per usual, I do a lot of research before buying fragrances, but I don't really like to go into details about notes and accords, as I don't think that they help the end user. I'd rather talk about the wear experience as a whole. As I already teased in my intro, in order to start fully appreciating this, I just had to surrender and stop obsessing about it. I purchased Jubilation XXV at the tail end of last year, and until recently, I couldn't really appreciate it. I basically was caught up in this whole reformulation thing. This is notoriously reformulated, and basically, according to what you read online on Parfuma Fragrantica, the old version is a beast mode fragrance with super long longevity and just overall incredible presence. And the current version available in the market today to purchase, assumingly, has been reformulated somewhere around 5 to 10 years ago. And it just sucks because I've been caught up in this reformulation loop and basically holding back purchasing this fragrance that I really wanted for such a long time. I actually initially smelled Jubilation XXV from a sample before purchasing the 40, and I absolutely loved it. And at the time of smelling the sample, despite liking the scent very much, I held off purchasing because I was convinced, or I convinced myself, that the longevity was absolutely terrible and that a purchase was not worth the money. Again, this is a very dangerous idea, a very dangerous loop to get into. This whole reformulation topic that thankfully is unknown to most fragrance enthusiasts can lead to deep obsession and even deeper spending. Just go out and ask my fellow Creed enthusiasts, ask about Aventus batches. That is a terrible thing. But back to Jubilation XXV, as I said, not only I was holding off from the purchase, but to put it in more simple terms, I just kind of gave up on the purchase because in order to really get the version that I wanted, the old version that was good, I would have to settle for the old presentation with the old font, the old box, the old logo. It just wasn't for me. It was just too much of a compromise, not to mention the massive cost. I already also talked about limited availability and FOMO marketing when covering Arif Ladore's War and Peace 2 in my fragrance first impression comparison. There I referenced the fable of the fox and the grapes, where the fox, even after numerous tries, could not reach the grapes, ultimately deeming them too sour and not even to her taste. That was basically me with Jubilation XXV. I owned 40 and I figured that 40 was the better version anyway, so it didn't matter. But despite all my efforts to try to suppress it, that itch lived in the back of my brain, every now and then resurfacing and just reminding me of how much I actually wanted this. So in the end of December, I stumbled upon a vintage looking bottle of Jubilation XXV, and I recognized it because this one here had the writing on the collar rather than on the bottle. And after a lot of haggling, a lot of negotiation, and still paying way too much for it, I decided to pull the trigger and get the bottle. And you know what the sad thing is that even after purchasing a so-called vintage bottle, and by the way, if you're wondering, this one here is from 2017, at least according to the batch code, I kept wearing this in a very obsessive manner. I would spray this on and I would basically time the fragrance. I would time the projection, time the longevity, trying to figure out if this was an actual old batch or not. Because I would go online, do research, trying to identify the exact year this started being reformulated, without much success. Some people claiming that it has been reformulated since 2016, some other people claiming that the reformulation actually occurred with a shift from the name on the collar to the name on the side, or actually from the bottle. So again, no definitive answer. And instead of enjoying the fragrance, instead of really appreciating the amazingness of this fragrance, I just kept obsessing about it. Somehow though, about a month ago, my point of view just drastically changed almost overnight, and I started wearing this, really enjoying it for what it is. Not really obsessing about the longevity or the projection, just wearing it and really enjoying the scent profile. Maybe this was also due to the fact that I was tired of very long lasting, uber complex, uber heavy scents, and I just gravitated to this because, well, basically it would cover a full day of work and not much more. But again, after wearing it and just enjoying it, I started appreciating it more and more, and this is absolutely an amazing fragrance that I learned to love so much. It's actually quite different from Jubilation 40. It's a much lighter, much woodier, much more incensey, much more perfumey, masculine sort of a fragrance in a way. It's much more similar to something like Overture Man, where the fragrance rides this fine line between being artistic and actually being very, very wearable as a perfume. Overture Man, despite the very strange opening, the very strong cumin note, is actually a very beautiful, very sensual, very elegant and mysterious masculine perfume. And this one here by Bertrand Duchaufour is exactly like that. It's not as evocative imagery-wise as the Jubilation 40, at least not to me. But again, it's such a beautiful, easy wear experience that is almost signature scent worthy. I would totally wear this year round, and I will totally wear this year round. I will definitely put in a lot more wears, but we're gonna talk about the scent profile and wear experience after we cover the presentation. When talking presentation, Amouage products are always incredibly reliably good. This one here is no exception. The bottle design is the classic masculine bottle. The cap is the classic dagger handle from Oman. Really beautiful, really heavy, magnetic opening, incredibly satisfying to put on. It auto orients. It's just a beautiful experience overall. The atomizers for Amouage fragrances are good, but not great. Yes, they spray high concentration of oils in their perfumes, but I've seen much cheaper brands offering incredible atomizers, so it's really no excuse. Let's give it a couple sprays or even 3, because I have been wearing this scent as my scent of the day, as I usually do when I do reviews, and it's been an absolutely amazing wear experience. I wore this at the office, no complaints whatsoever. This is such a beautiful, elegant, rich, opulent scent, but it's also kind of understated. Again, I'm starting to appreciate this whole wear experience. It's not a super loud scent, it's not beast mode. It wears presently, it has a lot of body, it's easily detectable even in the deepest of dry down, but it's not overpowering, it's not too much. It's not a celebratory fragrance as most people say. To me, this is much more of a daily wear. Bottle wise, this is your usual Amouage. Very beautiful glass, super transparent. It feels heavy, it feels solid. It's a joy to use. The glass again is super transparent. There's barely any blemishes. Even the seams are barely visible. The emblem is beautiful in metal. Everything is exceptionally well made. And again, this bottle is from 2017. It has seen some abuse. I have not put in this dent myself. It came in basically almost full. I just put in a little bit more of a dent. I have been wearing it a lot, but the guy was clearly not babying it, and it still holds up really, really well. But this is also to be expected because Amouage is a luxury brand that comes at luxurious prices. These are very expensive products. Jubilation 25 and the other fragrances, the non-exceptional extract fragrances, I think retail for 350 to 380 bucks. But you can probably get them at discounters for way less. It really depends on the fragrance. Jubilation 25 is not one of the ones that I see often at discounters, not as popular as something like Interlude. Interlude is actually fairly popular. This one here, I haven't seen that much. And also beware, and I really do not want to drive you towards that reformulation obsession, but the new versions that you might find at discounters or most likely the reformulated version. So again, your mileage may vary. I don't really suggest going to hunt for older bottles unless this is like your ultimate signature scent. But even then, just embrace what there is now. I'm not really sure if this is new or not, but even that sample that I tried out about a year ago was also super great. Scent profile wise, they were pretty much identical. I'm not really sure about longevity. I wasn't really timing the thing. It doesn't really matter anyway. Anyway, all I want to say is that Amouage, found especially at discounter, offers surprisingly good value because these fragrances last a long time. And again, you get 100 ml, so there's worse stuff out there. But time to talk about the scent profile and wear experience for Jubilation 25. What does this actually smell like? In this section of the video, I'll be heavily referencing Jubilation 40. I'll be featuring it as a comparison, not only because you guys might be interested in the actual comparison, but because talking about Jubilation 40 really helps me explain Jubilation 25 and vice versa. These two are quite complementary to each other and actually not that redundant. Well, maybe they are very redundant if you want to own them both and you want to still keep your collection very slim. In that case, well, you would go for one or the other because they sort of carry the same vibe. But they're surprisingly different, and Jubilation 40 perfectly picks up where Jubilation 25 left off. But let's start off with Jubilation 25. How would I describe the scent profile in more simplistic terms? Well, this is a fruity, woody, warm, luxurious, and very opulent scent profile that wears surprisingly light, especially for what it is. A lot of people online talk about this being incredibly ceremonial, very majestic and luxurious, attuned to the the Omani royalty and basically to be worn only on special occasions. Now, having worn Jubilation 40 a lot, I have to say that this is a much more wearable, much more lighter version of that. It's a lot more masculine, it's a lot more perfumey. This is a beautiful, almost everyday wear to me. Again, it's dense, it's thick, it smells luxurious, it smells rich, but it doesn't make me uncomfortable whatsoever. Maybe because of the way the wear experience is overall tailored. It wears in a very light way, as I said, in a very surprisingly light way, because the whole scent profile basically sits in the mid-tone of the tonal range. There's no real heaviness here, there's no exaggerated notes, like no exaggerated animalics or fruit notes. This is just incredibly well balanced. It's very, very hard to pick apart. It's very, very complex, but it's not overwhelmingly so. It doesn't feel like something you have to dedicate a mindset to. For me, the complexity found in this, the fine nuances that are in this fragrance, the overall fragrance wear experience, and the general undiscernibility makes it for such an amazing daily wear, because it's involving, it's engaging, it's fun, it's interesting, without being too much, without having that narrative aspect that really brings you for a ride every time. It doesn't feel like I'm watching the same movie. I can basically tune this scent out, or just have it in the background, just have it as a beautiful background smell, as a beautiful background melody to my day-to-day life. And other fragrances that I love are not like that. Interlude is not like that. Royal Tobacco is not like that. Silver Oud is not like that. Those are incredibly dense and involving, and I have to basically focus on the scent way more than I have to do on this. Wearing this a lot actually had me realize how good of an X-ray Jubilation 40 is to Jubilation 25. This basically takes the notes, the opulent notes of Jubilation 25, and just ramps them up in volume. This is much sweeter, it's much more dense, much more rich, much more fruity, and just more animalic. And they're not really animalic scents at all, especially Jubilation 25. But the 40 draws its animalic presence, its very stinky sweatiness from the fruitiness. It's kind of like a fermented fruit. And when I talked about this in my review, I said that this reminds me of like a prince riding through the desert on his steed, and both of them are covered in gold and garments, and they're kind of sweating under this beating sun. The sweat component in here, to my nose, is very, very prominent. Not necessarily because it smells like sweat. This smells very beautiful, smells opulent, smells rich, but has a density, it has a thickness, it has a heaviness to it. It smells humid, it smells wet, it smells damp, it smells oily. And again, the imagery of this person riding on his horse, they're both covered in beautiful garments and beautiful luxurious accessories, and just riding under the beating sun and just having this natural perspiration. It's beautiful. I love it so much. And this aspect is actually almost completely absent in Jubilation 25. This is much more clean, much more vibrant, much more zingy in a way. The Jubilation 40 has almost no zing whatsoever. This is much more airy and balanced. Again, it feels like a perfume, and in a way it comes across as more classy. Well, actually, classy is not even the right word to be used here, because the imagery that I get from Jubilation 40, the rider in the desert, is super classy, super beautiful, super majestic. This is just more classy in a European style. This goes more like a tuxedo. This is more clean. This is more kind of like put together. There's no wildness in here. There's no raw, visceral sort of emotion in here. It's beautiful. Again, I love wearing this, but it's much more detached from the richness and the heaviness of Jubilation 40. As I said before, the complexity of this fragrance is absolutely mind-boggling. It's actually more complex to my nose than Jubilation 40, because all of the ingredients, all of the fine nuances are allowed to breathe and to move about, and they're not stuck in this dense oil like in Jubilation 40. So everything is much more detectable, but it comes at you all at once. It's very, very complex. So trying to break it down, trying to tell you what I'm smelling might prove a little bit difficult. But nonetheless, I'll give it a go. And when you first spray this on, you basically get the same sort of fruitiness that you get in Jubilation 40. You get this black currant, maybe this blackberry sort of thing. Jubilation 40 is much, much more fruity, much more jammy, much more thick. In here, it's a little bit more fleeting, but it's your typical Bertrand Duchaufour sort of fruitiness. He's very, very good at adding fruitiness to woodiness, and this is basically his masterwork in my opinion. It perfectly combines so many subtle facets. So it opens up with this fruitiness, but it's immediately followed up with this sort of a oily greenness. Maybe it's the Davana, maybe it's rosemary, maybe it's the laurel that it's in here, but it's very detectable and it's so well balanced, so smooth. There's nothing sticking out, nothing is too prominent. It's just so incredibly smooth, yet it has a lot of character. This is not one of those scents which is smoothed down basically to perfect roundness with no character whatsoever. This is very, very zingy, very energetic. And although there's not much in the high tone of the fragrance tonal range, it still comes across as fairly radiant and evaporative. It's really magnificent. As beautiful as the opening is, it's also quite fleeting. The scent almost immediately dries down to this very beautiful incense woodiness, which is very, very dry. It has a little bit of sourness, it has a little bit of tanginess. For whatever reason, it kind of reminds me of the idea of white wine. It has this sparkling effervescence to it, and it perfectly combines like woody tannins to something like again, like a sour, almost slight vinegary taste. It's very, very beautiful, so tasteful, and so elegant. In this phase, the scent loses a lot of its presence, a lot of its projection, unfortunately. I'll talk about this a little bit more when covering practicalities, but overall, again, it's very, very beautiful, very masculine, very dry. It really emphasizes skin chemistry and it gets beautifully absorbed by my skin. There's something about it which is common with other fragrances, which really allows it to seep into my skin. It really allows my skin to radiate the smell rather than having it sit on my skin. Jubilation 40 is also different in this regard. Being a very oily scent, it basically sits on my skin kind of like an oil puddle, and it just slowly radiates in the heat especially. This one here actually works surprisingly well even in colder temperatures. It just pushes off the skin in such a beautiful, natural manner. In the deepest of dry down, the woody incense aspect becomes even more woody, even more dry. It pulls out some sort of a bitterness, maybe from the vetiver. It has a little bit of an ashy smell. Again, it might also be due to the vetiver, but it smells deeply smoky. It's a beautiful sight, or rather smell, to behold. As the scent dries down, it becomes more and more dry, more and more powdery, just leaving behind just a trail of its former self. It's really, really gorgeous, and it's so beautiful how it really peters off. I wish it would last a lot longer. It doesn't last that long. I think I get about 7 hours of wear-ish. But overall, scent-wise, I really can't complain. This is absolutely incredible. And it does kind of remind me of other Bertrand Ducheffour creations, namely Timbuktu by L'Artisan Parfumeur. That one there also opens very fruity with the mango, and it dries down to the incensey woodiness and then just peters off. This is much more complex because there's much more things at play. There's much of that greenery, that oily greenery I was talking about, that basically just permeates the scent profile and gives it a tiny bit of zing, a tiny bit of interest. There's so many layers to uncover. And again, I'm not gonna talk about all the notes, it's super boring to me, but the more you wear this, the more you start uncovering the various facets, the more you learn about the scent. Absolutely beautiful stuff. But time to talk about some practicalities for Jubilation 25. Starting off with performance. Unfortunately, performance for this fragrance is not that great. Again, I kind of gave up on the idea of having a beast mode fragrance out of this. It's fine. I'm happy with what I got. I'm happy with what this fragrance gives me in terms of scent profile, in terms of wear experience. The only thing that I'm not too thrilled about is the sudden drop off in projection, in sillage, basically from the very first opening when you get that blackcurrant, when you get that very zingy, energetic top. It basically just falls off a cliff and it becomes almost immediately this sort of skin scent, woody incensey thing. Again, scent profile wise, nothing to complain about. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's just a little bit jarring how fast the thing drops off. And I'm talking about basically 30 minutes to 45 minutes of good projection, like objectively good projection. And then it's not linear at all. It just kind of just falls off a cliff and you enter this woody incensey stage, which again, beautiful, but it's a little bit of a strange transition. And that I feel is actually the culprit of people saying that this doesn't last long at all, just because it's so jarring. Ultimately, this is very detectable even in the deepest of dry down. It has this radiating presence off the skin. It just feels like your skin is warm in a way, so it works extremely well. So as I said, longevity is about 7-ish hours, a full work day for sure. Once I'm back from work, I'm really ready to either transition to the gym or to the evening, put something else on, just change my mood, and this works perfectly in that regard. It's such a breath of fresh air. I know it sounds like I'm coping here, but it's such a breath of fresh air when you have a fragrance that lasts the exact amount, and when you come home, you can just change. Some fragrances are such a huge commitment and actually makes me want to wear them less. When it comes to actual use cases and versatility, Jubilation 25, in my opinion, is surprisingly versatile. Again, I'm going back to that ceremonial aspect that many people talk about. To me, maybe because I'm used to much more heavy fragrances, maybe because I have the 40, this is actually surprisingly wearable. I would wear this on a day-to-day basis, even at the office. I feel that most of the opulence, the richness, and the luxury aspect of the scent profile is tied to that very beautiful fruity opening. It's very, very heavy. It's very sweet. It has this honey-like feeling to it, but it doesn't last long at all. And when the scent transitions to the mid-dry down, which happens surprisingly quick, this becomes incredibly wearable. And again, it doesn't really project much, so it's not stepping on anyone's toes. It's not shouting out that you're overly dressed, that you're prepared for anything. It just comes across as very, very pleasing. And especially in the warmer heat, especially in the warmer days, like these days, we're transitioning finally, properly to spring. This comes alive beautifully. And in a similar way to Jubilation 40, I feel that this would wear even better in summer. Really, really great stuff. Again, to me, super versatile. I would not wear this to the gym just because it doesn't really fit that scent profile. It's just a little bit too serious, too put together, too just charismatic mode, I would say. To the gym, I like stuff that is a little bit more energetic. This doesn't necessarily give me that. But other than the gym, at least for me, this can pretty much go casual to elegant, day to night, pretty much in every situation. And again, if you have Jubilation 40, these two pair extremely well together. This could be your daytime scent, and this could be your nighttime scent, or this could be your overly luxurious ceremonial version of Jubilation 25. If this is your scent profile, if this is your signature scent, Jubilation 40 is a high recommendation for me just because they complement each other so well. When it comes to demographics, I have to say that this leans a little bit masculine, especially in the mid dry down to deep dry down. Those woody incensey notes that have a tiny bit of a bitter sour component are decisively masculine. They smell like vetiver, they smell like ash. And this doesn't really strike me as an abstract scent. It's a far cry from the other Amouages, which are much more deeper, much more evocative. This is very similar to Overture Man, as I said before. It smells perfumey in a way, but in a beautiful way, in a very complex artistic way, but it still comes across as a perfume. It still smells relatively normal-ish. In terms of age though, this leans a little bit more mature, has this dad scentiness to it, a little bit of it, which really combines comfort with elegance, with just being planted. You have to be more comfortable with yourself to pull this off. And even though it opens up fruity, the fruitiness don't really come across as very fun, very effervescent, very youthful. I don't know, your mileage may vary, it really depends on you. I think that this leans a little bit more mature. You have to be well within your working age and just established as a person to properly pull this off, in my opinion. In terms of imagery and narration, Amouage fragrances are usually very good. Jubilation 25 though comes across as decisively more perfumey. Again, it's beautiful, it's complex, the scent profile is absolutely amazing. It's a joy to wear, there's so many facets to discover, but it's not as evocative, not as narrative as other Amouage fragrances in my line or in my collection. Even compared to Jubilation 40, that one there is so much more punchy, so much more intense and sweaty. With that, I got the distinct image of that prince riding his beautiful thoroughbred in the desert. This one here comes across as just like really classy. It's just really elegant. It's super comforting, and it has nothing to do with the linearity of the scent because it's not even that linear. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I got this after Jubilation 40, maybe because I'm used to other very evocative scents. This one here doesn't really bring anything to my mind. Again, I regarded this as signature scent worthy for me, and in order to be that, to be the signature scent in a very similar manner to Bracken Man, and it's the reason why I like it, it just goes in the background, it just fades in the background as this beautiful background melody, and this is just that. Alright, we're at the section of the video where I showcase some options for my reviewed fragrance. In the case of Jubilation 25 options, I really wanted to go all in on the opulence. on the thickness, on the heaviness, and the beautiful, rich aspect of scents. My first option is from Oman Luxury. This one here is a new acquisition. It's Royal Incense. You guys have been asking me to get this. I finally got this in a trade. It was a partial, but it's an absolutely amazing fragrance. I really like this. This to me actually comes closer to the vibes of Jubilation 40 than to Jubilation 25 because it's much sweeter. There's a very detectable honey note in here. It's so beautiful. It's very powdery. It's very, very potent. There's also a beautiful rose component in here. It's just such a well put together fragrance. It's not necessarily balanced because it is a little bit heavy on the bottom. It's a little bit heavy on the sweetness, but it's not cloying at all. It's such a beautiful, pleasant wear experience. I wore this out and about a couple times and I asked friends and colleagues to give me feedback, and the feedback that I got was incredibly positive. Everyone was super ecstatic about this scent. They said that it smelled like nothing else they smelled before, and it just comes across as incredibly likable, incredibly mass appealing, but still full of character. It's not your generic scent whatsoever. Super beautiful. Oman Luxury is a brand that I really like. They're consistently good. All of their fragrances are really, really good. I have Maria also that I want to review. I'll be coming out with a full review of this soon. It's really, really good. Again, presentation-wise, Oman Luxury, absolutely amazing. Price-wise, absolutely amazing. Everything about the brand is absolutely amazing except for the name, but you heard me rant about that previously. I'll save that for the full review. My second fragrance option is a Guerlain, and this one here is Incense Mystique. I already featured this as an option in some other video. This is a beautiful rose incense fragrance. It's so unique smelling. And I've been told, actually I didn't know it because I wasn't looking at the notes, that this one here contains real ambergris, and it's actually the reason why it got discontinued. Yes, this is a discontinued fragrance. I got it in a trade. I'm super happy to have that. It smells very, very beautiful. It smells super unique. It smells like nothing else in my collection. For whatever reason, every time I wear this, especially in the opening, I get an incredibly strong cola vibe from this. Maybe it's the sweet spices like the cinnamon, maybe it's the rose, the fruitiness that combines with the effervescence of the cardamom and the ambergris. I don't know, it's just super beautiful. It's really, really great. You can still find this, by the way, despite it being discontinued. I really recommend it. Also because if you hold on to this, maybe even a couple of years, you can sell it for a profit. I've been looking at, which is the other one, the Bois Mystérieux or something like that, and that's very hard to find, very, very expensive. I also looked at the others from L'Orient line, some of them still being readily available, like the Oud one. That one there though hasn't had great reviews. I'm not really sure what that is about. Anyway, if you have any recommendations from L'Orient line before they go completely extinct, let me know. I'll try to get my hands on them because they all seem really, really interesting. Again, this is super unique. It's simple, it's not really narrative, but it's beautifully composed, maybe typical Guerlain. It's really, really great. I love wearing it. It has surprisingly good longevity, and it's unique. It smells very, very different. It has a tiny, slight animalic touch to it, which makes it really interesting. But overall, beautiful, abstract fragrance, wearable, super unisex, pretty much day to night in every sort of occasion. I really like it. I'm really happy I have it. Last but not least, my usual oddball, although this one here is not an oddball despite it coming from the brand of Zoologist. We're talking about Civet. Civet is hands down one of the best fragrances from Zoologist. It's that good. It's so incredibly balanced. It's so well designed. It even won an award. It's so opulent, rich, thick, very, very fun to wear, not too animalic. It's very likable. It has such incredible performance, presence, and body. It lasts all day. It's such an amazing fragrance. I love wearing it. It's just so multifaceted. In a similar way to Jubilation 25, it has so much layers to uncover, to really peel off and to learn about. Every time I wear this, I gather more information. I pick up new things. This is, again, one of the best fragrances from Zoologist. It totally deserves all the hype. Despite the name, it's not too animalic, it's not too stinky. This is much more of a spicy fragrance. This is actually one of the fragrances that I would recommend starting off the Zoologist brand with, because if you're into heavy fragrances, but you're still scared of T-Rex, you're still scared of bee or of Hyrax, this one here is a really good place to start because it's alluring, it's endearing, it's mysterious, but it's still quite likable. It's really, really great. I think I'll be wearing this as my scent of the day tomorrow. It's that good. Every time I pick it up, I'm so mesmerized by it and I instantly get an urge to wear it. I put in a significant dent in here despite getting it secondhand. This is not my whole dent, but I put in a lot of wears. This is really, really amazing. But back to Jubilation 25 for my final recommendations and overview. Jubilation 25 is probably one of the best fragrances from the Amouage brand. It just smells that good. Reformulated or not, it doesn't really matter. The scent profile is absolutely amazing. It's so complex, so well balanced, so well designed. Is this my favorite Amouage fragrance? Not by a long shot. I do gravitate much more towards the edgy, towards the dark, towards the animalic, the abstract, and the evocative side of things. But despite that, I do really recognize how amazing the scent profile is, and surprisingly, something like this, something like Bracken Man, actually get much more wears from me because they're so easy to put on. They have all that Amouage complexity and fine nuances that I love in fragrances, even for my daily drivers, because again, I like fragrances. I like wearing fragrances that are interesting, and these, despite the complexity, are much more easy to put in the background, as I said before, kind of like a background melody to my day. It's really, really great, and I plan on wearing this a lot. If you like this a lot, have it and wear it a lot, you should really consider Jubilation 40, because again, it takes everything that's beautiful about Jubilation 25 and just elevates the opulence, elevates that ceremonial luxuriousness, and it's really, really great. It's a beautiful complementary fragrance to Jubilation 25. Overall, if you like fragrances, if you're watching these videos, if you're a fan of the channel, you have to at least sample Jubilation 25. It's a masterpiece by one of my favorite perfumers ever, arguably his best work, and it's just such a beautifully created fragrance. It's so balanced, so well designed, and it's really rare to come across something that is so masterfully put together. Really great stuff. I like Amouage. I wish they would bring out more stuff like this, because I feel that they're going more into the experimental modern side of things, which is cool, which is fine, but the more traditional people who are into perfumery with a twist, with an artistic intent, are a little bit left behind, and this is one of the best fragrances out there for them. If you like this type of content, if you like my approach to the video, feel free to subscribe. It's always massively appreciated and helps the channel. If you want to interact with me, leave a comment, suggestion, opinion, or anything else down below. I always reply and I always keep the conversation open. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your time. Many more reviews to come, many more fun videos to come. See you on the next one, and cheers.